I tell them that it feel nice.
Yo, what's going down? It's your boy, the Young Boss Hog, Natomas Slimm, and we're chopping up game with Positive Sean from the nationally syndicated Armstrong and Getty show. Sean, what is going on, my man?
Oh, another day where the key card still works, so, you know, that's always good. It's probably nothing but downhill after that point, but you know, as the name says, you gotta be glass half full.
You're in the building. That's what you got in.
Building.
You're in the building, and that's half the battle. Just getting your foot in the door. Sean, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Oh,
Appreciate
of course, my man.
You know, 6 feet distance, social distancing.
Oh, of course.
We're doing here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
At all
I washed
times.
my hands 3 times already during this.
And I know people are like, hey, Slim, you've been interviewing a lot of people via Zoom, but me and Sean works in the same building, so
that's true.
He could come into the studio. Everybody else don't have access like him. Remember, he got in the building. Everybody else can't get in the building.
Their key card doesn't work.
So how's everything with you, Sean, man? How's the show going?
Show's going good. You know, are we still quoting Kanye? Ain't nothing on the news but the blues. I don't know if that's still allowed or not, but, you know, it's... We do a lot of talking about the news of the day, and the news of the day is rather thick and depressing as of late.
Saddening.
So, yeah, just trying to do our best navigating those waters. Personally, you know, I was built for shelter in place, so I'm fine, right? I'm a single guy who lives in a 1-bedroom apartment who plays video games with most of his free time. So
you was prepared for this.
Oh, yeah. I was
training your whole life.
I'm a man of this time. And somehow, if they can just spread my DNA to all these people who seem compelled to need to go out and do things all the time, yeah, just let's embrace the avid endorseman lifestyle that I advocate so dearly.
Oh, I'm with you on that one. Even though I'm not a recluse, this time I'm like, hey, I have no problem staying indoors. Saved a lot of money. I realized that.
That's the other thing I've noticed too. Yeah,
not going out. I never realized how much I eat, how much I spend on drinks and food and just random stuff. We could curse. It's random bullshit that I just never knew that I had. But, Sean, question with you.
Yes.
Armstrong and Getty, I want to get a little background on you. How did you get on that?
Well, I was a weekend part-timer. I was doing the board operating shift for various gardening shows and reverse mortgages and, you know, late in life financial planning, sort of, you know, the typical sort of stuff that you hear on the weekends on the radio. And the producer that Armstrong and Getty had at the moment, they ended up parting ways. So I was initially just going to be kind of the fill-in, the warm body to kind of, you know, do the very basic minimum of what the producer job did, and while they did a big search to find the next producer. So I kind of got to audition for the position rather than apply for it. Yeah. And it only took like a day or two before I was like, hey, you know, this seems like it could be a good fit, and there's a lot of their show that reminded me of a lot of the things that I liked about radio, right? They're able to weave the serious and the funny, and they don't look at those things as mutually exclusive, that you can have a lot of serious discussions with punchlines mixed in. And so I just told them, I was like, hey, you know, I know you guys are doing a big search. Keep me in mind for the position. I'd be interested if you guys would be interested in having me, and just let me know. And then so I kind of finished out the next like 2 weeks, which was kind of the predetermined time. Hey, we need you to fill in for a couple weeks while we do a search. And then at the end of that, they came to me and said, hey, well, I think, you know, if you're good with it, we'd like to stick with you. I said, seeing as I was part-time at the time, I said, full-time sounds good.
Yeah. Full-time benefits, I'm good. All right. Yeah,
sign me up.
It. Yeah. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and that was, I don't know, 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, something like that at this point.
Oh, man. So you've been on for a minute.
Yeah. Time gets weird as you get older. It's really hard to figure out like how much time has actually passed. But I do believe it's been in the 5 to 6 year range since I first started. And it was weird too, because Armstrong and Getty have been huge in Sacramento for as long as I've been in radio. But I never, the first time I ever listened to the show was prior to me doing the fill-in producer thing, but I was a fill-in board op. When the board op went on vacation for Best Of, I needed to sit in on a show or two. Just to kind of learn the rhythms of the show and what I would need to do to run the show during a Best Of. I'm pretty sure it was when they were all on vacation. And that was the first time I'd heard the show. And I was like, oh, you know what? I could dig this. I could dig this. Because partially, too, I just always assumed, largely because of many of the stations that they share shows with, that they were kind of a Fox News clone, like somebody running like Hannity's playbook sort of thing. But from my perspective, they weren't that, and they were much more good faith debaters and they certainly have their perspectives and how they think things should be, but it's not as one-sided as a lot of the typical kind of conservative talk.
No Tucker
is.
Carlson.
Well, few are.
But Sean, you're a big hip hop dude, right?
Yes.
And so what hip hop did you molded you? Who are you up against and listening to a young semi-positive Sean?
Well, the very first was like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice era, right? Like Will Smith, like Fresh Prince, MC Hammer, and this is like 4th, 5th grade, right? Like young, happy rap, right? Like,
even though MC Hammer would slap the shit out of you. Don't mess with MC Hammer.
Not until, and that's only when he dropped the MC and just became Hammer, and he was doing pumps and a bump. But my first 2 concerts were MC Hammer concerts that I went to as a kid. And then as I progressed, into junior high, then Tupac's double album All Eyes on Me came out, and that was a game changer for a lot of stuff. And then high school, right? Like I was Busta Rhymes was like my favorite. Busta was my absolute. I never pretended or made arguments that he was the best, but I was unabashedly no, he's my favorite. He's my favorite. And I think a lot of that too is I came up in music videos were very much a giant part of kind of me musically growing up, and just Busta with the fisheye lens, man. That did something to me. Yeah.
Yep, I know that bust. Oh man.
Oh, that's right. This is all we can look at the camera.
I know. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Busta was on one, and he's still doing stuff. He's like, I went onto his on Apple Music. I put in his thing, and he's got albums like out in the last couple years or whatever.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I feel bad. I didn't even know that.
Nah,
sorry,
it's good to see old people working still.
He's not even that old, is he?
For the hip hop game,
yeah,
he
for
is.
the hip hop, it's the young man sport. That is true.
Yeah, we've never had middle-aged hip hoppers before. Like this is a new thing, right? There's going to be all sorts of like, not too much farther in the future, we're going to have grandparents who grew up on Dr. Dre's The Chronic. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be weird.
Oh man, that is. I never thought about that because I remember my parents used to think that hip hop wasn't going to last.
Yeah,
they used to tell my brother that I got an older brother and he got me into hip hop. And my parents used to always say, oh, this is going to go out like disco. They thought it was going to be a disco thing. 4 or 5 years, gone. And it kept going. And it was like, when is this going to end? And it never...
Can't stop, won't stop.
Getty right there, man. Puffy knew what he was talking about. Yeah. It ain't going on. I remember I was talking to you the other day about Biggie.
Yes.
And you said something about, I forgot what song you said it was, but you said it was like aliens came down or somebody came down and you said, what's like the best, like...
What's this Biggie guy?
Yeah, who's this Biggie guy? Tell me about this guy.
I got one verse to listen to. What do I need to hear? And my take is that Notorious Thugs, is that the name of the song?
The one with Bone?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That's the best Biggie verse I've ever heard. And
it's Bone and Biggie, baby.
Yeah.
It's Bone and Biggie, baby.
This straight up weed, no angel dust.
Labeled us Notorious. Yep.
That is by far and away the Biggie verse I've listened to more than any other. As a whole song, I think it's great too, just because Bone Thugs have a very unique place in hip hop, and they're very, I can say unique again, but there's nobody really doing it the way that they do it. So I just like it when they blend their styles with other people's styles. It always comes across as a really cool thing. But in particular, Biggie's verse on that is one of the, at the time, it was the most impressive thing I'd heard on a hip hop album.
It still kind of is.
It's up there, but Black Thought put out a 10-minute freestyle.
Oh, that's true.
So I mean, my scale needs to adjust because I think that might be one of the most impressive things just in music, full stop, that I've ever seen.
Just rapping for 10 minutes, top of the head, nonstop. That is insane.
And the rate that he said it, like moment one, beat one, he sets an incredible breakneck speed that he does not step off of for 10 minutes. Yeah. It's incredible.
I could say one thing that I heard that was that had me like that with the Black Thought, before Black Thought, was The Game. The Game had, I think it was 300 bars and running that he released, where it was just 300 bars of him dissing 50 Cent and G-Unit when they had that whole beef and the beats kept switching. I was like, yo, you're still dissing them. Like, I was like, we're 6 minutes in. How do you still come up with more disses to somebody for 6 minutes? And he just kept going, and that's one of those things. I don't think that was a true freestyle, though. I'm pretty sure that he wrote that beforehand. Yeah. But that was still something where I was like, this is crazy that somebody could keep going on the same topic for 6+ minutes. But Black Thoughts was right off the top of the dome, 6+ minutes. And I'm like 10 minutes, actually. And that's some insane stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of freestyle in and of itself as an expression of hip hop, and that display is beyond
Question for you.
impressive.
You said freestyle. So I get into this conversation all the time. Is a freestyle something that you make up at that moment, or can a freestyle be something that you pre-written and you're spitting it at that time?
I have forgiveness for if you have like a couplet or like some like a 1 or 2 bars that you just kind of use as a bridge in between improvisational things, right? You use it as sort of kind of a freestyle while you're thinking of something else.
Yeah.
But I believe that freestyle means no, this is largely the first time you've done it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Positive, Sean.
Otherwise, it's just a live performance, and that's a different thing than a freestyle.
Exactly. Freestyle supposed to mean freestyle. You're thinking freely, and it's just what is ever in your head. You see something, you rap about
Stream
it.
of consciousness, right? Like Sway does that thing every so often where he just throws out words, and then you got to incorporate that word into the flow, and then he'll 30 seconds later he'll give you another one. That's a really good example of actual freestyles to me.
Yep, and that's what I don't like those. I like the written raps when they go on somebody. They'll be like, "Yo, bust something out." They'll be like, "All right, okay, hold on." Here we go, and they do something that's written, and it's fire, it's clean. But then I'm like, you can't say this is like one of the dopest freestyles you heard because it's not a freestyle; it's written.
I saw who it was. It was Black Thought for sure, and it was Method Man was the other one, and I'm pretty sure it was on Sway's show where Sway was getting him to do a freestyle again, and Meth was like, "Man, I'm sitting next to like Mr. Freestyle here, Black Thought." Because part of the reason why Black Thought is so good at this, I've never been to a Roots concert, but I've heard that part of their show is they just bring somebody out of the audience and he freestyles about them for like 5 minutes or whatever. Oh. So the number of reps that he's gotten in like actual elongated freestyles is probably dwarfs most people.
Yeah.
But Meth even said, "Man, you got me sitting here next to Thought. I got to go to my phone. I'm gonna go to my phone. I got some bars, but they're here." So and then he did, and it was good because it's Meth, and he could read in the phone book, and I'm like, "Oh, that shit slapped."
That's Method.
Oh, wait, can we swear? I just swore there.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's all good, Sean. Good?
Oh, thanks. Good. Oh, goodness. It's the internet. But yeah. So that goes to your example, right? Method Man knew it's like, oh, no, I'm not up to freestyle right now, but I don't want to get blown out of the water. So let me go with some bars that I've been working on.
Yep. That is true on that one. I like Black Thought. I like the Roots. I like all that stuff. But I'm turning gears with you, Sean, because you're the positive guy. And you're also in tuned with what's going on in current events and with the life and with everything. So what do you think about the protest that's going on right now? Black Lives Matter, all the other stuff. Is that something you rock with?
Well, if I may be difficult at the moment, are you talking about like the official Black Lives Matter organization?
No,
or
the movement.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, let me separate. That's another thing. They're two separate things.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think far too often the people who don't want who want to argue against it are arguing against the organization.
Yeah.
The people that are arguing for it are arguing about the slogan and the meaning behind it.
Exactly. And there's like 20 different organizations that's Black Lives Matter Inc., Black Lives Matter Organization, Black Lives Matter Sacramento, Black Lives Matter More, or you know what I mean? Like whatever it may be. There's so many different ones.
So just in general with me, just know that I never support any organization. But I support most movements. And yeah, so that is absolutely, it's something that I'm absolutely down with. And it's unquestionable to me to have people who actually once explaining the difference between the organization proper, quote unquote, that has, that it has some questionable things in their mission statement and the movement and the sentiment behind the slogan. Everybody deserves to be treated the same in America. That is the promissory note that America made to Americans. And when the government and agencies don't live up to that, I absolutely believe and fight with people who are like, no. This includes us too, by the way.
Yeah. But, you're not a Marxist, I guess, huh?
It depends on the issue. Like I said,
No, because that's what they always say. Like, I listen to the people that's against, they be like, the Marxist Black Lives Matter. I'm like, what? And I'm always like, yo, do you think those thousands and thousands and thousands of people that's out there on the streets, they're all like, yo, I'm part of this organization? No, these are people that sees injustice and is out there like, I want to get my voice heard.
Right.
Things need to change,
and it's also, and kudos to them for locking down the domain name or whatever. But the donations are pouring in to those things.
Yeah.
Right. Like the donations aren't going to the people on the street who are trying to fight for racial equality and you know, police reform. You know, all things that I am 100% behind. It is very unfortunate for me as quote unquote an outsider, because I'm not an outsider because I'm an American, but I do not know what it's like to live as a black man in America, right? Yeah. I only know the stories that my friends have told me and from what I've seen as an outside observer. You know, they got the domain name, and now it is unfortunate that it has clouded the conversation of what, if you did the polling on it, would almost be like, you know, an overwhelming
it's like
victory.
75% of people agree with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Which in political polling is an absolute landslide. Right? Like if a president wins like with a 4-point margin, that was a drubbing. Right? So like any sort of political polling that's like double digits is just gigantic, like sign of, no, this is a pretty solid consensus about, you know, what's going on here. And I just feel like, you know, politicians and the media and so many people in positions of influence do a disservice to those that they broadcast to by not defining their terms enough when they talk about these things, right? Like not like kind of like what we did, right? We distinguish between, you know, the sentiment, the slogan, the movement, and the organization that happens to share a name that is riding this wave for their own personal gains.
Well, there's even organizations that are not even riding the wave for it. There's a Black Lives Matter Inc. or something that is a music nonprofit,
like a music label.
Yeah, like it's for like music, like like helping people with music type of thing.
I got you.
Like a music or nonprofit music organization, and they were getting like flooded with donations, and the person's like, "Yo, I guess they like my, I guess they like what I'm doing for the kids."
Really killed it with that last freeform jazz YouTube video that I put out.
And so sometimes folks do just have to do their own due diligence as well and know what they're giving their money to.
I feel like that's a big part of it, right? People need to develop their own immunity to nonsense. Because anytime that you are requiring, whether it's social media companies or the news media, to be the lone arbiters of fact checking or line drawing of what is and what is not allowed, I just think it creates more problems. It's impossible to create a boundary that is impenetrable from lawyers or rhetorical loopholes, things like that, right? Like one of the examples that we talk about on the show pretty frequently was the problem Facebook had with breastfeeding, right? So
what problem they have with breastfeeding?
Posting pictures of a mother and her newborn breastfeeding. Yeah. And, you know, maybe people complain or however it got brought onto the radar. Oh, no, is that nudity? Okay, let's take that down. No, that's not nudity. That is natural motherhood. That is a beautiful thing. We shouldn't be putting this into the corners, and you know, it should be fine. Yeah. Okay, fine. We'll allow breastfeeding pictures on there, but only breastfeeding. But now, okay, what happened? Well, at what age do you draw the line, right? Like, what if it's an 18-year-old dressed up like a baby breastfeeding on, you know what I mean? Like, so now you have these weird loopholes, and a lot of the American spirit is built around, oh, you made a rule? Well, watch this.
I know.
Right? So to rely on other people to set rules that are only going to get tested and pushed and stretched is, I mean, it probably makes people...
But every rule gets tested and stretched. I mean, like, even laws, you know what I mean? Like, that's what lawyers are for. Lawyers are there to stretch the laws.
Right, but that's why...
To find anything.
Exactly. And that is why to rely on Twitter to remove things that President Trump says that may or may not be truthful, I think is a dangerous thing. And right now it's probably fine because I probably agree with most of the things that they take away from Trump. But these things aren't handled in a vacuum, right? Yeah. These things set precedent that can then be used the next time a president is in office that I like, right? And now all of a sudden it's, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's really hard to root against things that have a negative impact on people you don't like me with Donald Trump, right? Like I don't like him, can't wait for him to get out of office. and you know, in a small petty vacuum, hey, yeah, take away all his Twitter stuff. I don't care. Make drive him crazy. But
should be called Petty Sean instead of Positive Sean?
Possibly, yes. But to enable a third party, non-accountable company, like, you know, who's to say that the next time a president that I like is tweeting something about
Wait, so are you saying that you think it should just be open forum? Everything, like, you know, because, you know, they take down graphic stuff, they take down nudity,
think, like,
they take down,
well,
you know,
Twitter doesn't take down nudity.
No, no, it does not. Twitter after dark be popping.
I think it is ultimately it is a more just thing to let people be jerks and expose their own idiocy, right?
So you think that pandemic video that got put out there, remember the pandemic one?
That
you think
bunch of nonsense.
That should have just stayed.
Goes back to my initial point.
Out there.
I think that we need to develop our own immunity to nonsense, and when you outsource the censoring to companies that may or may not agree with you overall, but they do in this particular moment, I think creates the potential for more abuse and less overall honesty. Another example is the Tom Cotton New York Times piece when he was talking about, yeah, we should send the army to these cities, and the editor got fired for publishing a thing that went against what a lot of people at the newspaper thought was a proper thing. Yeah. It's like, no, that person's a decision maker. That person has influence. We should know if his ideas are repugnant. Yeah. I don't want to chase those to where those only exist in the shadows and then flourish and then explode onto the culture, right? I think sunlight is the best disinfectant, and to expose
unless
people,
it's COVID.
Right. Yeah. And to expose people to the horrible ideas that people in power have, I think is a net positive. And allowing presidents to make those mistakes, I think, is important.
Okay, I see what you're. Okay, now let me throw it out here. So again, I want to just ask you one more time. So, do you think it should just be open forum, right? Wild Wild West, how the internet used to be back in the day?
No, I think a lot of the same, like death threats, like violence, things like that. I think the doxing thing, like revealing personal information, is probably a bridge too far. But in terms of he posted something that's wrong, I think that's whatever. He's allowed to do that. You're allowed to be wrong. Yeah. You're not allowed to, threaten violence or intimidate.
I mean, are you for because I know sometimes they take it down, sometimes they put the little disclaimer under there. Like,
I think disclaimers are fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But you're just for censoring, taking the whole thing off, like this never existed type of thing. That shouldn't be.
Yes, reflexively, I'm against censorship in general, just because I want to know if you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like if you have horrible takes, I need to know that, and then I can adjust myself accordingly. Right? I can be like, okay, that guy's retweeting pandemic videos. That's somebody I probably shouldn't take too seriously going forward. As opposed to somebody who thinks that is afraid to tweet what they think because they know how the Twitter mobs will react to it. Yeah. And so then they only harbor those feelings in private, and then they seek out other confirmation biases to make it seem like, okay, good, I'm not the only one with these feelings, there's others, right? As opposed to just kind of letting the social pressures and friends reaching out, hey, I saw you tweeted out that pandemic video. Did you actually watch that? And get right, and I'm for the exposing of ideas and this, I like this saying a lot. The best counter to bad ideas is better ideas. It's not removing their bad ones. It's supplying better ideas that counteract what that one is.
Yeah, but what if you don't have a better idea? You just know that idea is not it. You know what I mean? Like, you like say, use the pandemic thing again. You look at the pandemic stuff and you're like, yo, that's some bullshit. You'd be like, well, how do you know it's bullshit? Like, I just know it's bullshit. Like, I don't have anything to
that's the thing. Like,
back that up, but I could look at that and plainly see this is some BS.
You're allowed to be wrong. If President Trump wants to tweet out a video of a doctor who thinks you get sick from having sex with demons, I want that to be out there and for as many people to see that as possible. Yeah. To associate the nonsense that this guy is promoting, right? Like, just for a single example. And in general, I am for allowing people to expose themselves to be idiots. and not shunning them away into the shadows, because I think through discussion and discourse we have a better chance to change people and evolve people. Where with censorship, I think you just kind of revert back to tribalism and people just go, retreating to their camps and living in echo chambers.
But what if you're not? Because I mean, like, what if you're not able to have that debate, right? So say something like that weird stuff, the DNA, the demon sperm thing. It gets posted all over Facebook and all that. That's not really a debate, right? You can't really debate that. You can only look at that and then people take it as it is. So they're getting a platform, a huge platform that you can't really, combat.
But it's on the individual to develop their own immunity to nonsense. And I think that I have enough faith in kind of the general populace, which might be misguided, that sure, there's going to be some percentage.
You're misguided on that one.
Some percentage of people are going to be like, you know what? That's a really good point that demon sex doctor is making. But I think there's going to be far more people who, through their own research and through their own curiosity and through their own kind of sense of this doesn't seem quite right, let me dig a little deeper. I think more people will be exposed to the wrongness of those ideas than will just blanketly spoon them into their own mind.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, I get your point.
So my solution absolutely has some number of people being fooled and or tricked and or agreeing with ideas that I disagree with. But I think on balance, it's better for society if we just allow people to figure that stuff out and let people display their own idiocy.
Oh, hey, you're a sports dude, right?
My first decade or so in radio was in sports talk. So
yeah. Sports talk. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I worked at 1140, the King's flagship station. That was one of my first.
No cross promotion on here, man.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. I worked at insert competitor's name here for a long time, and we broadcast local sports team. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in sports talk.
So who's your squad?
The Kings. The Kings are for basketball for sure. For sure, it's the Kings. Because and really just overall sports, basketball's the when I got away from sports talk, and watching every single sport known to man was no longer an obligation. I kind of took like a cleanse, right? I stepped back away from it. Like, I really don't watch football at all anymore.
Oh.
Baseball's practically just non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a baseball guy.
Yeah, I was begrudgingly paying attention to baseball because of sports talk. But football, like I never, like I stepped back and I just kind of never really returned to it. Basketball is the only one that really pulled me back after I really enjoyed not having to watch things.
I have enjoyed not thinking that I need to watch sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's weird because now I'm like, granted, I'm glad it's back. I'm a basketball dude. I like football too, but I'm a basketball sports guy to the fullest. And, it just feels good for it to be back. You know what I mean? I was one of those people that did think like, maybe they shouldn't come back. He'll have a more, impact on the Black Lives Matter movement, everything that's going on. It could have a bigger impact if all these big names were just like, fuck it. We ain't doing this. We're putting our focus over there. But then it could go both ways, too, because now they're getting, television exposures, and they could still have a...
It's the opposite of deplatforming. They are signal boosting their movement by negotiating with the league and say, hey, let us do some of these things because, and the NBA has really just kicked ass much more so than a lot of these leagues on engaging with the players and just being kind of a more progressive league.
Or not even outside of that, just the whole COVID thing that's popping off right now. They had 0 COVID tests. I mean, granted, Lou Williams almost ruined that.
No, again, if food is named after you on the menu, you get to go whenever. I forgive Lou Williams.
Those chicken wings are pretty popping from what I hear. I've been to, and then again, just strip clubs itself is pretty popping too out there in the South. Have you been to strip clubs in the South?
Not in the South, no. But I too was once 18, and so yes, of course I went to strip clubs.
See, that's the thing. So you thinking 18-year-old strip clubs? You go down there to Houston, Atlanta strip clubs, DC strip clubs, even some out in LA. Like they used to have Secret Sundays out there. Those strip clubs are different level strip clubs, bro. Like they're clubs, they're restaurants, they're parties, girls, and it's not the pervert thing that you'd be like, ooh, here's a 20. Nah, this is like it's smack like it's. confetti and stuff. Like it's popping. Like
I don't pay to window shop.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a club as well too. So you go into the club, and you get to see naked women, and you could probably find your wife there. That's not a stripper. Because girls go to it too.
She's there with her group of friends. And like, hey, I thought you were doing ladies' night out. We were. That probably would happen, man. But so you're a Kings fan, and we have our bet. Yes, we do.
Coming up because this season's going to be over in what, 2 months maybe.
No, well, the actual season's only going to be a couple weeks. Each team only has like around 8 games to play.
So that's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, just about that. Yeah.
Oh, we got 2 weeks. So our bet is 50 anytime push-ups if one of our teams have a better record.
So
right?
I picked the Kings. You had the Spurs. It was an end of the regular season bet, like who's going to have a better record. We made this at the beginning of the season. Now I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news. The season got put on pause. So Natomas Slimm took the Spurs and yeah, so now we're waiting to see how the season plays out so we can start and the bet of anytime push-ups are the loser at any time. If the winner says, hey, give me 10 push-ups,
gotta do 10.
You gotta do 10. Gotta drop and do 10.
I promise you I'm gonna run into that Armstrong and Getty studio if, oh God, I just want. And the thing about it, I'm not even a Spurs fan. I like the Kings.
Right.
I like the Kings better than the Spurs. I just thought the Spurs would be. I'm a realist. And the realist in me was like, hey, Popovich is better. I like DeMar DeRozan. I like LaMarcus Aldridge. But I should never bet it against, Swiper. I should never bet it against Swiper. Like,
and this whole pause, giving the Kings a little bit of a chance to get back to healthy, although Bagley, once again, just a glass cannon. Hurts. It's his other foot, so he didn't re-injure the thing before. I don't know if that's better or worse.
I know, what is it? What is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now you
got
2 hurt feet.
That's fine for big guys usually, right?
It's not fine.
Oh, I was misinformed. I'm being told by the producer, no, that's actually not fine. Yeah.
Actually not fine whatsoever.
But in general, as long as Fox is playing, I feel like the Kings have a shot in literally any game. I believe in that guy, and possibly this is a little bit of my fan blinders coming on, but I just think he's a dynamic player who on any given night can be the best guy on the court. Depending on the opponent, maybe Giannis needs to stub a toe for that to happen. But yeah, I think he's certainly capable of defeating teams that they shouldn't because he's that special of a player.
Fox is going to be a true star. Like he's already a star, but he's going to be that upper echelon Kawhi, LeBron, Giannis level sooner than later.
Now, I'm not comparing their games, but I feel like their career arc. My guess is it'll be something similar to Chris Paul's, where I feel like he's going to be a top 5 point guard for a long time. And depending on who you talk, he's unquestionably like a top 2 guy. Yeah. But a lot of people kind of sleep on him, maybe because he gets kind of stuck in a small market here. I don't know. Hopefully they sign a contract extension for him. That's that's my wish. But if he's stuck in small markets, I could see him being kind of an overlooked superstar.
Because it took Chris Paul to get to LA for people to be like, oh man, Chris Paul's really good. It's like
before then it was like Chris Paul or Deron Williams, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? What is that? Is that even a thing? That's ridiculous."
Yeah, they compare Chris Paul to Deron. Oh man, Deron was good though.
They were good, but he was never in the. It was never
Paul.
He had a couple good seasons, and they were doing things, and he had a better supporting cast, I think, early on, which is why some of his stats looked a little bit better. Yeah. But just from what I look for, like, I don't know, Chris Paul is just such a special player.
I stopped liking Deron Williams because he got Jerry Sloan fired. And Jerry Sloan is, I kid you not, he's one of my favorite coaches. I hate Utah Jazz because I never liked Stockton and Malone, but I always liked Jerry Sloan because I was like, this guy's he's a good coach. And he was like a player's coach. I liked him. And Deron Williams got the man fired. I was like, you can't get the legendary coach for a team that the only coach that took him to the finals and get him fired. And it was all because of Deron Williams.
I respect most people who become perfectionists in a thing, right? And I love that Jerry Sloan was like, no, they can't stop the pick and roll. We're just going to keep doing that.
And you knew what they were going to run. And you know who it was going to be with. Yeah. Stockton and Malone. Not Hornacek and Stockton. Not Hornacek and Malone. Not Hornacek and Ostertag. Not Stockton and
Certainly
Ostertag.
Certainly not Ostertag.
It was Stockton and Malone all the time.
And it's I'm not going to throw my right hook until you prove that you can beat my jab. And I love that from a game theory, strategical standpoint. I think that's beautiful. I love that.
It's the epitome of is if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Coming from the guy who, when I played Madden, I would have a playbook of maybe 4 plays.
Oh, I had 3. There, 2 of them was out routes.
Yeah. And then I can audible to the slant.
I'm like, until you can beat that, I'm going to do that. 10 yards, first down, first nickel and diming you all the way in. Sticking on the sports, man. You said that the NBA very progressive, head of the game. What do you think about the NFL? Like their way of, how they first handled, Kaepernick way back in 2016.
Horribly is how they handled that.
And then now we're
still horribly.
It seems like they're more getting on board, but in a weird way.
I'm more skeptical of the NFL than any professional league. They are the biggest money wise, just evaluation, and so they have the most to kind of protect. And I feel like the steps that they've taken recently have more been begrudging, bare minimum, how do we get people off our back maneuvers, as opposed to, no, this stuff matters to us. Let's engage with the player base and the fan base and figure out, what the move is going forward. I think Goodell is a joke. He's a joke coach. He's not a joke. People have a misunderstanding of what his job actually is. He is a media shield for NFL owners. And in that respect, he is very good. But in terms of the actual sport and things like that, I think his handling of practically every important decision during his tenure has been botched.
Yeah, his PR, from the domestic violence stuff to just the people going to jail, getting arrested, to this. I don't know. And I always feel like, I don't know. I just like, even the Washington Redskins, Washington football team, what they're called now.
Which is unbelievable.
The wild thing about that is they've been hounded to change their name for at least 10 years. Mm-hmm. That's the least.
To not have a contingency plan already?
Yeah. To not have, just in case if this actually, works out, we have options. So did
you hear about what the possible hiccup to this was?
No, what was it?
Some guy trademarked 50 things that he thought the Redskins might possibly change their name to. And they were so when the Washington football team was like, hey, we got to make it, and they went to do it, they found out that the thing that they wanted was already trademarked. So I feel like they had something that they wanted to go to, but they couldn't agree to terms with this dude, which if I was him, I'd be, more money.
More.
No, up. Is that what you came up? Okay, double it, right?
Up it.
So I this has not been confirmed, but this was a rumor that was floating around some sports talk sites and stuff like that. And I choose to believe it because I think it's hilarious.
That is, I hope that is true, because that's so NFL. That's so Washington Redskins. If that really, it's kind of like the person who remember Facebook used to be called The Facebook.
Yeah.
And somebody had Facebook.com. And Facebook had to buy that domain name from the person. Because if you still type in thefacebook.com, it redirects you to facebook.com, which not as young folks, y'all don't remember that one right there, thefacebook.com.
No, and those who have seen the movie directed by Aaron Sorkin know that it was Justin Timberlake who suggested that they remove the, because he was the cool guy. You could tell because he was hot. Oh. And Eisenberg was not. So, yeah, he was the cool guy. He had the good ideas. He had the ladies and the drugs.
Oh, you have the ladies and the drugs. You're obviously the cool guy. Oh, man. Well, Sean, man, I know you got to go. Don't want to hold you up. Let people know how they get a hold of you, man.
At Positive Sean on Twitter is probably the best way if you want to hear me land awesome punchlines. I'm very good at Twitter. I'm very good.
Where can they listen to you on Armstrong and Getty? What cities?
We're on 20, 30 cities now.
All right. Well, what's the website then?
ArmstrongGetty.com, Armstrong Getty Podcast, all those things. iHeartMedia. What is the
iHeartRadio app?
Radio app. That's the thing.
Yep. Free iHeartRadio app where you can listen to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us all there and jump into the marketplace of ideas. It's a great time.
Positive Sean, thank you so much for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Be safe. Stay COVID free. Wear the mask.
Always.
Wear the mask. All right, man. You're Choppin' Up Gaming and Natomas Slimm. That was Positive Sean. We out of here.
When they ask me what it feel like, I tell them that it feel nice.